Gracias a todos, gracias de verdad. Ya estamos listos. Todo un año esperando Divergentes 2.1. Este año vamos a hablar de esta reevolución, de una nueva evolución. Estos 3 días están llenos de muchísimo conocimiento, pero sobre todo de muchísima energía y buenas intenciones. Así es que si todavía sabes de alguien que puedas invitar, dile que se venga. Recuerda, hoy todo el día tenemos este Summit, mañana, y también lo tendremos el día sábado. No te lo puedes perder. Mi nombre es Alfredo Culebro y por los últimos 15 años hemos tratado de ayudar a más de 42 millones de emprendedores alrededor del mundo. Y hace 2 años empezamos este gran sueño porque Robert Kiyosaki, autor del libro Padre Rico, Padre Pobre, me pidió una vez, me dijo, oye, tenemos que hacer un programa en México. Y así es como nace Divergentes hace 2 años. Y hoy día es una realidad en este Divergentes 2.1 Reevolución. No te puedes perder todo el conocimiento de gente muy exitosa, pero gente que también nos habla a nosotros, a los emprendedores, como le digo yo, de a pie, aquellos que queremos crear cosas distintas. Vamos a empezar sin mayor preámbulo. Por favor, pon mucha atención, saca tu cuaderno, saca también tus diferentes colores, porque es importante que tu cerebro, que tiene 2 hemisferios, funcione al 100%. Ponte muy cómodo, trata de apagar tu celular y todo eso para que tú tengas un enfoque al 100%. Lo más importante es que tú aprendas, que tú crezcas, que tú te des cuenta de todas esas maravillas que tenemos en esta vida para ser abundantes y que obtengas herramientas claras y fuertes, precisas para tu desarrollo personal, espiritual, mental y financiero. Sin mayor preámbulo, vamos a empezar el día de hoy a ver este gran evento con uno de mis mejores amigos, además de ser para mí el líder mundial de ventas, Blair Singer. Blair Singer ha sido parte del equipo de asesores de Robert Kiyosaki en el área de ventas, comunicación y liderazgo. Blair, además de ser un excelente maestro y un gran ser humano, tiene un conocimiento precioso y preciso para ti y para todos. Y este año, ahorita, te va a compartir precisamente algo para que puedas ver de manera global cómo están reaccionando los mercados, qué es lo que está pasando, dónde está la crisis, pero lo más importante, dónde están las oportunidades que muchas personas no ven. Sin mayor preámbulo, te dejo a Blair Singer.
Thank you so much, Alfredo. Thank you for the introduction. It's been a great journey together, the two of us, for sure. Friends, brothers, co-leaders, facilitators, it's been an honor. And, you know, the best is yet to come. And by the way, those of you that appreciate Alfredo and think he's a great teacher and leader, let's give him a big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. You and your team. Amazing. So let me begin by saying this. How many of you would agree that we are living in at least interesting times right now? Right? At least. And how many of you would never guess that 18 months ago that the world would look the way that it looks right now? We'd be listening to the things we're listening to, seeing the things that we're seeing. Government's doing what they're doing. Education system's doing what they're doing. All the crazy stuff that's going on. How many would have never guessed that? You know, some people say that for most of life, things, change takes place over the course, slowly over years. And then there's other times in history where everything happens in days and weeks. We are in the days and weeks right now. Things are changing and happening so quickly, people can't even fathom it. And it's very confusing. So the reason I'm here today is, first of all, is to give you maybe an overview of all this. That we've seen crisis, all that, but I'm going to show you that we're also sitting on top of one of the biggest opportunities for you financially, as well as for all of us as a community that we've ever seen. But people don't see it, just like they don't understand why are things happening so quickly and what is happening. So I'm going to ask you to do this. Listen closely. I want you to take your head, if it's stuck in the sand, I want you to take your head out of the sand. Okay? Don't hunker down and say, I'm just going to wait for all this crazy stuff to go away. Don't do that. Don't do that. I want you to be fully awake and fully aware of what I'm going to show you. I'm only going to show you one flip chart here. I'm only going to show you one. But on it, I'm going to show you some trends that will give some reason about why we're here and why to take the opportunity. Now, those of you who don't know me, my name is Blair. I'm one of the Rich Dad Advisors. Maybe I saw you last year at the Divergentes last year or the year before. For the last over 30 years now, probably, I've been helping entrepreneurs in over 40 countries around the world to double and triple their sales, build championship teams, realize their dreams, and probably over the last 15, tens of thousands of people taught them how to be great teachers, leaders, facilitators, which I'll talk about in a second. And I'm very honored to be friends with Robert since the early 1980s. We've been on this journey together, and to be surrounded by some of the brightest, most amazing individuals in the other Rich Dad Advisors that I've ever been blessed to be with. So for those of you who don't know me, author of 3 best-selling books, Little Voice Mastery, How to Win the War Between Your Ears, and Sales Dogs, and Team Code of Honor. So let's get into this real quickly. Where are we? How did we get here? I'm going to draw us a couple of graphs for you, and I hope that you understand that what I'm going to draw for you is pretty simple, but it's an adventure. But an adventure has some excitement to it. Now, also with an adventure, there's an assumption of a little bit of risk. So let me ask you, are we facing risks right now? Health risk, financial risks, family risks, all kinds of, So it's an adventure. So enjoy it. Put a smile on your face. And let's take a look at how you'll be able to maximize the opportunity, okay? All right. Now, the reason I'm going to show you some trends, and these are very simple trends, is because if you're standing by the side of the road and you're watching cars go by, do you really know where they're going? No, you can't tell because they're just whizzing by, right? But if you get in a hot air balloon and raise yourself up to a few hundred feet or a few thousand feet even, can you see where they're going? Yeah, you may not know exactly, but you got a better view. You can see where they're going because why? You have a bigger, broader picture. One of our great teachers, the late Dr. Buckminster Fuller, the inventor of the geodesic dome, author of many books, a great inspiration for Robert, myself, the advisors, Alfredo, and for many others worldwide, always said this. He said, you can't get out of the way of things that you can't see. You just can't get out of the way of things that you can't see. What else did he say? He said we were designed to design our futures, not to be victims of them. We were meant to be designers of our futures, not victims of the future. That's what I'm here to talk to you about. Well, Blair, aren't you going to talk about sales and little voice mastery and team development? Yeah. I did all that last time. We are in a different time right now. And all those are critical. And we can teach you all of that. Alfredo can teach you all of that. But I'm here to open your eyes to something that's in front of you that could be the biggest opportunity or the biggest nightmare of our existence, okay? If you're up for that. Are you up for that? Type in yes in the chat box. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you a little bit. We're going to start into this. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to move quickly here. All right, here we go. All right. So let's just take a look at trend number one. So if this is you or me or us or wherever we are right here, okay? Technology, okay? So digital technology, medical technology, microchips, computer technology, all kinds of technology, whatever you want, wherever that operates, has accelerated to unprecedented levels. Let's call this technology. Has accelerated to unprecedented levels. So in other words, a megabyte of information back in 1967, I think cost $1 million. $1 million in 1967. Now, that's a while ago for sure, but today it's 2 cents, 2 pennies. So our computing power has been estimated that to double the amount of information available per person on the planet is doubling at least every 18 months. And I would guess that that's old information because it's probably happening less. Okay, so the amount of information that we're facing, the speed of technology around us, most people don't even get it. The analogy I heard is if I gave you a choice, I'll write you a check for $1 million US, or I'll give you 1 US penny, and tomorrow I'll double that, and the next day I'll double that, and I'll do that for 31 days. Now, which do you want? The penny, doubling, or the $1 million? Well, if you guessed $1 million, which is what I got, there's just no way, $1 million's got to be better. You would have been wrong, because if you did the doubling of the penny, you would end up with over 10 million US dollars at the end of 31 days. 10 million US dollars. Now, it seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? At least to me it did. That's what technology is doing. That doubling of information every 18 months, every 12 months, the technology racing ahead at that rate of speed, we can't even fathom it because our brains don't move like that, and you just don't see it right in front of you. By 2025, trucks and taxis will be driving themselves. All those people are going to be out of jobs, okay? So what's going to happen? The bad news is while technology is going up, those jobs, some of those jobs go down because it allows us to do more with less. The need for skills, new skills, is going up, okay? So it's a very confusing state. If that makes sense, okay? So with technology going like this, we are in an unprecedented period of time. Now, I'm going to draw one more here, and I'm going to take down my screen for a second. If we, based upon all this, if we are here, and let's say back in the early 2000s, we were very confident, okay? We're very confident. You know, we were making money. We felt that we could predict our futures pretty well. And then what happened? In March of 2020, COVID-19 hit, locked us down globally. Still, you know, wherever you are, you're either still locked down, you're coming out of lockdown, or it's going back in and out. Who knows how long this thing will last. But what it's revealed is confidence levels with disappearing jobs and skills, not having the skills for all this technology, is what's happening is confidence levels dropping precipitously. Matter of fact, I'm just going to call this curve mental health. Why mental health? Okay, because one of the things that happened during 2020, one of the unpublicized things, is that through all that confusion, the amount of alcohol abuse, substance abuse, drug addiction, violence, domestic violence, murder, suicides, jumped to unprecedented levels like never before in such a short period of time. Why? Because people don't know what to do. They don't know exactly what's happening, but they just don't know how to cope with it. They lost their jobs. They don't have the skills for new jobs. It's a very confusing time. So it's happening. Even right now, if you watch a National Football League game on television, they're doing ads for mental health, helplines for people to reach out, because it's now becoming evident that people need help. Olympic athletes that are bowing out of competition because they don't have their heads right. Big deal, big problem. Nobody's talking about that, and nobody's talking really about the acceleration of technology at the same time. Like I said, cars that drive themselves, trucks, transport where there's no more need for truck drivers, healthcare systems where most of your health can be done via a computer, wired into a computer. You don't even have to go to a doctor's office or a facility, because one computer can monitor your entire body rather than having to go to a specialist for this and a specialist for that, a specialist for this. It's all being done at the same time. We have the opportunity for a greater level of health at a fraction of the price, because the other thing that happens on that curve, while jobs go down, skills go up, the price of that technology keeps coming down. Now, some people say that's bad, that's deflation, but it allows us, as Dr. Fuller would say, that allows us to do more with less, okay? So those are two trends. I'm gonna show you two more, okay? And then I'm gonna show you the opportunity. Now, the other thing that happened with COVID is in March of 2020, when all the schools shut down, basically what happened, all kids were at home. And immediately the entire public school system of the world got flipped on its backside like a turtle laying on the back of its shell with its legs dangling up in the air, unable to move and function. It got revealed, our school system that we kind of knew wasn't so great. It was a good babysitting service, but it wasn't a good educational service. What happened is they tried to take the system tried to take all the education, put it online on a Zoom call, and it didn't work. The one thing about cameras, and people say, well, everybody can get on a camera. If your process of what you do is bad in person and you put it on camera, the camera just magnifies the problem, okay? So kids wouldn't show up, they bash the calls, they sabotage the calls, not getting education. Parents spent time educating their own kids, which is part of a new revolution that I'm going to be talking about here in a second. So again, it was a crisis of mental health, a crisis of physical health. So on that red curve going down, that's not just mental health, that's physical health. It was revealed became clear that the fact that 70% of all Americans are overweight and nearly 40% of all Americans are diabetic puts almost everybody at risk to a virus. Okay, so we realized that our mental health was going down, our physical health is going down, technology is going up, jobs are going down. Crisis, right? Crisis. Now, if you remember last year when we did Divergentes, I mentioned that crisis, as you know, in Chinese means opportunity and danger. But one of my great teachers, Mac Newton, some of you may know him, two-time world champion Taekwondo, owns both a Super Bowl and a World Series ring because he's conditioning coach for some of the greatest athletes in the world. And he's also mentor to Robert and some of our tribe in Mexico, is that he says crisis is change trying to happen. Crisis is change that's trying to happen. In other words, these things that I'm talking about, they're not new. Technology is not new. Healthcare is not new. Mental health is not new. None of that's new. It's been there, but nobody's paying any attention to it. We just kind of push it down the road because everything else seems kind of okay. Until some point, it's kind of like you're running up the stairs, and all of a sudden you're out of breath. You're going, oh my God, what's going on with me? What's happening? You go to see your doctor. Your doctor says, dude, you got a couple of arteries that are half clogged. You're in horrible shape. You're diabetic. You need to do something now. or you're not going to live very long. Now you got to do something. That's a crisis. But it wasn't new. It's just that we didn't pay attention to it. That's where the world is today. That's where we all are today, except for the people that have been able to see this coming. You know, the advisors, we saw this coming, not necessarily exactly what it would look like, but we've been preparing for this for a long time, and hopefully you are too, particularly with what I'm going to show you here, okay? Now, so there's a healthcare system, all those things. But the biggest system that was proved to be in crisis, the biggest crack in the foundation that got revealed was which? It's our education system. As I was mentioning to you, the education system, the biggest crack of all, because there are no problems that are operating out in our world today. Viruses, climate, whatever, you know, wealth, poverty, any of those that cannot be handled by people that know how to think creatively, know how to cooperate, collaborate, how to communicate, how to get their egos out of the way. Can all be solved. We've proven that in the past, okay? But that's not what's taught in school. We're taught that collaboration is cheating. We're taught that, you know, go to work for somebody else and let them tell you what to do because they know best. Why? Because that's what the teachers do. Not because they're bad people. It's just that's who's teaching our kids and who taught us. Okay? So the biggest crack and the biggest opportunity in all the world, I believe, is the education system. And I'll explain why in a second, okay? So crisis is change trying to happen. So let me just show you how this plays on our trend map here. If I go back to this one. Now, again, excuse me if these are not statistically accurate. I'm just doing this as a generalization, as a lay person, just trying to see the world. So don't fault me for not having the exact statistics here, but I think you get the idea. So if we take a look at education, let's put here, this is us as education, right? Education. What's happened? Well, our education system is proven beyond a shadow of a doubt to be failing us, okay? And by the way, let's just add physical health over here to this one, okay? So it's failing us at a great rate. How do I know that? I'll give you a little quiz right now, and we'll see how much you know. Ready? Here we go. I want you to think, I'm only kidding. I want you to think about the 3 things that you want to learn the most right now. Things that you want to learn the most right now. Think about, what are they? Maybe write them down while I'm talking. What are the 3, or maybe even 5 things that you really want to learn right now? Okay? Even though you don't know how to learn it, but you want to learn it because you need it. Okay? What are they? I will almost bet that nobody on their list wrote calculus or physics. Maybe physics, okay? But nobody wrote calculus. I don't think anybody talking about, you know, how to diagram a sentence properly. I don't think so. I bet you wrote down things like wealth, health, relationships, harmony, communication, stuff like that, yeah? Which are the things that we want the most as human beings. Happiness, how to be successful. So let me ask you something. If those are the things you want to learn the most, where are you going to learn them? Where are you going to learn them? Are you going to learn them in school? I don't think so. School's not going to teach any of that kind of stuff. It doesn't teach that stuff. So think about it right now. The things that you, all of us, as human beings, as 7 billion of us on this planet, the things that we want to learn the most, there's no place to learn it. There's no place to learn it, okay? As a matter of fact, you'd be hard-pressed to find any place in school that would teach any piece of that kind of stuff, okay? So that's what I mean by the education system failing us, and the fact that it's not teaching us the right stuff. And the way it's taught is not being taught in a fashion that even teaches people how to learn. It's taught about how to regurgitate, how to memorize. When remember, what means something in business and life is how to cooperate, communicate, be creative, get your ego out of the way. Remember the things I just mentioned? These are the things that we need to learn, regardless of what we're learning, okay? So again, education system has failed dramatically, but in there lies a gigantic opportunity. Now, before I give you the opportunity, let me show you one last trend. One last trend. We're going to put these pieces together. Hopefully you're getting an aha right now, okay? So if I'm going to share again, fascinating, yeah? I just want you, I'm trying to keep this really, really simple so you don't have to, so you don't need to remember anything, just remember the graph. Along with technology, let's make this green. Along with technology, part of technology is media. Media, right? So media, what do I mean by media? Media is, how we communicate. There's verbal media, we're just talking to each other. There's written media, where we write things and send it to each other. There is video media, there's social media. So we communicate via the internet, all different types of media. Because of technology and electronics, and because we're doing it here right now, thousands of us together without even having to leave the comfort of our own homes, right? Is that media, the acceleration of use and technology of media is accelerating also, not quite as fast as regular technology, but pretty darn quickly. So this is media. Does that make sense? All right. So I'm going to put all these pieces together here in a second. So we are right here in this green zone right here. This is us right in here. We're in the middle of this. Now, the question that I have for you, is, what does that mean to all of us? What that means to all of us is the accessibility, our ability to communicate with each other is also accelerating, okay? People need skills. People are losing jobs, okay? Mental health is down. Media and technology is going up. It's crazy, it's chaotic. So what's the opportunity that sits right in the middle? And by the way, this confusing time right here, this is happening right now. This is us right here. This is us right now. This is not tomorrow. This is not next week. This is not yesterday. This is right now. This is happening right now as we speak. That's why if you're going to do something about it, you're going to want to jump on this quickly. Not quickly, now. Okay, you're going to jump on it right now, and you being here is a part of that now. Okay, the education. So the biggest opportunity, just get to the chase. The biggest opportunity right now is education. We are in a revolution of education. Education as we know it will never be the same. And if it is the same, then humanity takes a gigantic couple of steps backwards. And you know the repercussions of what all that would look like, okay? We are standing in a place where education, an educational revolution, where right now, for example, think about this, media, technology, crashing education, crashing mental health, all come together. So what are the statistics on that? Okay, so here's a little statistic that right now on YouTube, let me see if I got it right here. Yeah, on YouTube, 1 billion hours of YouTube video is being consumed by us every single day. 1 billion. 1 billion hours every day. So what's that tell you? And I think it's like 500 hours a minute are going up on YouTube video every minute of every day. Why? Well, because the access of media and bandwidth, has expanded dramatically, so people can get information out as fast as they possibly can. Okay, and people want to learn stuff because they're not getting it in school, so they're consuming it right, left, and center. Okay, whether it's good or bad, they're looking at it. The problem is, you don't know if what you're getting up there is the truth or whether it works or anything like that. But as humanity, our insatiable desire to learn cannot be stifled. It cannot be stifled, no matter what anybody wants to say. Okay, so that's the revolution. The revolution is, and the gap is a gap in education. And who's going to fill it? The public school system? No. One of the things that Fuller talked about years ago is that there are certain lag times in industry. It's like technology is like only months between a time of innovation and use in the public sector. Construction's longer. I think it's like 20 years between state-of-the-art building technology and use in the public sector. But education, 40 years, the longest of all. The longest of all. So even if the education system got the lesson right now, which it's not, because teachers are holding on saying, no, we don't want to do, we don't want to change. We just need to get the kids in here and we'll take care of them. Look, education system proved to be a very good daycare center. So parents could go to work. There's value in that. Okay. But as an educational institution that prepares people for life, look at the statistics, look at the mental health, look at the numbers. It's not there. They're still teaching from old textbooks, okay, with old methodologies. Okay, so again, the biggest opportunity is in the field of education. Over the last 15 years, I've trained tens of thousands of people that want to be better teachers, leaders, facilitators, coaches, because of the gap in the market. Many of those people, part of our Blair Singer Training Academy tribe, many of them are making very healthy 7-8 digit incomes, US dollar incomes in over 40 countries around the world. Why? Because we've been preparing for this for a long time, not just in skill training, but also in the personal development, little voice training, right? So here's the opportunity for all of you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to say this. All of you are here for a reason. I just learned over all my years in this career that people show up for reasons that I don't know about. But if I were to guess, if you were attracted to anything Alfredo Culebro said, or his beautiful wife Rosanna said, or anything that I'm saying, or anything the Rich Dad Advisors are saying, then I'm going to say somewhere inside of you, there's in your DNA is a chromosome for teaching. For teaching. Think about it. Somewhere inside, you have important knowledge and experience to share. And I'm not saying you have to become a professional trainer, full-time trainer, anything like that. But one thing that Robert and I learned a long time ago when we were just peons he was working for Xerox, I was working for the Burroughs Corporation and selling office equipment, is that we weren't that great in sales in the beginning, but we were learning to teach in those days because we thought that would improve who we are. And we always thought it would, and always thought I would have a future. Didn't know why. Okay. So what we did is we did these little programs, and I did programs in the branch office for competitors, for customers on, how to sell or how to build teams, things that I was learning myself as an entrepreneur. And people would come. And because I gave value first, then we would sell after that. And we both became number one in sales for our respective companies. Teach, then sell. Teach, then sell. So the opportunity to learn how to teach can be hugely beneficial to your business, mostly because none of your competitors are doing it. They're just driving their prices down and taking a race to the bottom as our prices deflate. Remember, because of technology, right? And that's a race to nowhere. But if you can offer value to people's lives, change lives, give value, then sell, then you got a better opportunity. More on that later, okay? Or to become a professional trainer. Like I said, some of them are doing very healthy 7 and 8 digit incomes right now by seizing on this gap in the marketplace. Look, our school systems are old. Right now, COVID has become a blessing. Why has it become a blessing? Unfortunately, it's killed millions of people. That's not a blessing, for sure. But it's forced us to take that change that's trying to happen that I talked about before, and it's put it right in front of us. We can go no further. We must address these issues. Like I said, if we don't, we step way back. We take a step backwards, which is not a good place to be, okay? If we're going to wait for governments to take care of this, that's not a good place to be, okay? What's happening right now is because of COVID and mask mandates and vaccine mandates and what the curriculums that are being taught in schools, whatever. And I don't really have a major opinion about, I'm not going to voice an opinion about all that. But what parents are deciding that they're challenging the school boards. They're challenging the teachers. They say, no, we don't want this for our kids. We want better. We want better for our children. We want the better curriculum. We want them to be treated fairly, et cetera, et cetera. So some of them are taking them out of school, teaching them at home. At home. I'm going to tell you the part of this new educational revolution is teaching at home. That's what the Rich Dad Company was formed for. Teach financial literacy at home with your family. Teach about how to read a financial statement, a balance sheet to become financially free at home, because you're not going to, we already talked about it, you're not going to learn it in school. School's not going to teach this stuff. Okay. So the wave is already happening. If you look around yourself, if you just remember these trends, and we were in that green zone in the middle. The question is, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? The biggest financial opportunity, a fellow by the name of Nas, I did 1,000 videos over 1,000 days. He's a Harvard graduate, became very famous, and you can find him all over the internet. But he said this in a 5-minute video, if you have a chance to check it out. He says this, he goes, you have billions of dollars sitting in your head in terms of information and experience to share. And if you're going, not me, I don't know anything, that's nonsense. You know a lot. Remember, here's a couple things about education. I'm giving you a couple steps. But the one thing I'm going to tell you is that education is not just about a skill, teaching skills. It's not. You can teach construction skills. You can teach mathematics skills. You can teach communication skills. But you also need to be able to teach personal development, attitude skills. This is the reason mental health is going down, because we have never been taught how to deal with our little voices. We taught just be tough, be strong. Really? That's your advice? There's nothing more than that? This complex computer up here just telling me to be strong? Well, you got some of the strongest people in the world in the National Football League and the Olympics. They're bowing out because they're some of the strongest individuals we know, but they were never trained on that. And they were trained how to work out hard, but they were not trained on how to deal with the complexities of life, of living, of relationships, the things we want to learn the most. Okay? So how do you handle this, and how do you take advantage of it? Okay, the way you take advantage of this is a couple things. I'm going to give it to you right now. Number one, if you want to take advantage of this gigantic revolution and be part of the leading edge of it. I mean, like I said, there's millions of people that are already in it. Okay, but I'm going to show you how to distinguish between this. Number one, go learn what you want to learn. Go find what you want to learn. Remember the 4 or 5 things I had you write down? Go find the best in the world and learn from them. You know, learn from the advisors, learn from Alfredo, learn from myself, learn from and don't tell me, don't say, I don't have the time or money. Don't say it, because that's not an excuse. You remember the technology curve? The technology curve? You can go to a website, get tons of great information for $10 a month or for free. We do a trainer mastery program for $15 US, 3 days to teach you how to teach. That's why, because I know in my heart of hearts, if there's one thing that I can leave for this planet, is to create the best teachers, leaders, and facilitators in the world that change all this. I don't know what else I could do, but this is what I can do. And that's what you can do. You don't need a degree. You don't need to go through years of college to do it. Yes, if you want to be an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, stuff like that, you're going to have to learn those kinds of things. And that's school does a great job of that stuff. But for the rest of humanity is what I'm talking about right now. For the rest of us, okay? So go learn what you need to learn. Don't tell me you don't have the money, because that's no longer a valid excuse. And don't tell me you don't have the time, because education is available 24/7. 24/7. How do I know? Because I'm training at 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm training people in India, you know, at 10, 11 o'clock at night, I'm teaching people in Japan. Okay, so there's no excuse. Time and money is out. Go learn what you need to learn. Why? Because your life will get better. It'll be fun. That's number one. Number two, as you learn it, don't even wait till you finish learning it. Once you learn it, start teaching other people what you've learned. Yeah, teach what you learn. That's what Robert and I did back in the day. Teach what you learn to other people. Talk about your mistakes, talk about the errors, talk about the successes, talk about the wins, and talk about what happened to you, the transformation you went through along the way. Okay? Understand? So teach what you learn. Number 3, learn how to teach. If you really want to do this well, then learn how to teach, which we can help you with. Now I'm going to give you a couple of hints on this. When it comes to teaching, there are 2 parts. All those YouTube videos miss all of this. This will make you different. Just remember this. 2 parts. Number 1 is a skill. Whatever you're trying, we want to learn how to be healthy. Okay, lose weight. Is that so difficult? Eat better food. Don't overeat. Get some exercise. Drink water, and don't put toxic things in your body. Simple, right? Then why are 70% of Americans overweight and 40% of Americans are obese? Why? It's not rocket science, so it's obviously not the skill. It's something I call the resistance. It's your little voice. The thing that prevents people from getting what they want is not necessarily learning the skill. It's overcoming the mental, emotional, and igniting the spiritual desire inside of people to make it happen. Igniting the spiritual desire to get it happen. Because when your spirit's on fire, nothing stops you, right? Okay. So how do you do that? Well, you can learn how to do that. But remember, it's 2 parts. It's 2 parts. It's the physical skills, and it's the mental, emotional, spiritual attitude, mindset, and little voice mastery. Okay. Those have to go together. If you have just one and not the other, it won't work. If you just have the mindset stuff, but you don't give them a skill, they can't do anything with it, right? So they must go together. That's what most of the YouTube videos are missing. Okay, they're one or the other. Got it? All right. So again, number 1 was go learn what you need to learn, teach other people what you need to learn. Number 3, learn how to teach, learn how to learn, learn how to teach. And I'm going to say this, whether you want to be a professional trainer, part-time, full-time, or just run your own business. Here's the thing. As a leader of a business unit, you no longer have a choice. You must teach. You don't have a choice. Say, well, I'm just a leader. These are different times. Remember that green zone? It's now. It's not tomorrow. It's right now. You look around your group. If you've got a group, a team, they need education. What education? They need to learn how to cooperate. They need to learn how to collaborate. They need to know how to think for themselves, how to take personal responsibility, how to get their little voices out of the way. All of which is information you can find and learn easily. I mean, if you go to blairsinger.com, there's a whole bunch of stuff there that's free. And for $10, you can have a plethora of that information if you want to learn. Okay. So as a leader, leaders must be teachers. Leaders are teachers. Teachers are leaders. Years ago, actually, about 2 years ago, I went to the largest Buddhist temple in the world. It was in Thailand, Dakayama Temple. And I had an opportunity to spend some time with the most senior monk there, which is a huge honor. And we had a discussion, and he talked about teachers, because he teaches thousands of monks to teach meditation all over the world, because their whole premise is world peace happens through inner peace. So you can teach a person how to still their mind, have inner peace, then the world's got a chance. And so he said in his mind, there were 3 criteria for being a great teacher. This is whether you're professional or doing it part-time or just in your own business. Number 1 is the curriculum, whatever you're teaching. Is it relevant? Is it something people want to learn? Is it relevant for these times? Are we teaching calculus to people that don't need calculus? Are we trying to teach people how to drive a stick shift in a vehicle when people won't even be driving vehicles anymore? I mean, one of the interesting things about technology is, think about this. Technology has shown us that if you own a car, you only drive it 5% of its life. 95% of the time, it's sitting someplace not doing anything. 5% of the time, it's just sitting there. Now, think about Uber. Think about Lyft. So how do they work? It's called ride sharing, right? So in fact, You've seen those bikes that people leave by the side of the road and people just pick them up and use them and then drop off and use them and pick them up and drop them off. What about the same thing with your car? With technology, you can set platforms that are highly accountable, highly efficient. So you can buy a car and you're not using it, somebody else is using it. And when they're done, somebody else will use it. And it'll be back where you need it, when you need it, right at the right time, fully serviced and everything. You never have to touch it. Technology. Okay, technology. Sorry, I just got off on a little bit of a tangent there. Okay, so again, the idea here is he said in order to be good, it's curriculum first. So is it relevant? Is it relevant? Teaching something that's relevant. Number two, how you teach is actually more important than what you're teaching. Are you teaching people in groups? Are you teaching people in teams? Are you teaching them? Are you acknowledging them? Are they celebrating wins? Are you asking questions? Are you telling them what to do? Are you pulling information out of them like Socrates did? To educe, education comes from the word educe, which means to draw out of. Facilitation comes from the word facile, which means to make things easy. Make things easy as an educator, not to make them more difficult. Okay, so your method of doing it is more important. But he said the third thing that's the most important of all, to be a great teacher for your kids, for your family, for your coworkers, for society, is who you are as a person. Because the minute you show up in front of a room, on a camera, or whatever, people look at you differently. Do your beliefs, do your thoughts, do your words, do your actions, do they all line up? Are you the real deal? Are you honest? Can they trust you? Think about all the stuff on social media. How much of it do you trust? I don't trust very much of it, no matter where it's coming from. Not because they're bad people. It's just crazy. But can they trust you? Years ago, when Robert and I learned to teach, our first major trainer was a guy by the name of Marshall Thurber, and he said, I'm going to teach you how to teach. He goes, I'm not going to promise you you'll make money. I'm not going to promise you'll get big accolades. I'm not going to promise any of that stuff. He says, but I will promise you this. If you learn to teach the way he taught us, the way we teach, the way Alfredo and I teach, and the way Robert teaches, if you learn to teach this way, you will become the person you always hoped that you would become. So let me ask you, how many of you believe that there's a bigger, better person inside of you right now? Give me a thumbs up on that. Okay? Or how many would at least hope so? So it turns out that COVID has been a crisis and a disaster, but it's also been a gift if you can see the patterns, if you can see what it accelerated. Okay? I'm going to show this one more time so you remember it. Because what COVID did is that sooner or later, we would have gotten to this green zone. This would have happened. These trends were already in place. But what COVID did when it hit last year, it took this whole area, it took this whole area here and slid this curve this way. So this curve is not only now, it's happening here. Okay, and the more we ignore it, the deeper and the more these curves will accelerate. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you something, that in this area is one of the greatest financial opportunities, one of the greatest fulfillment opportunities, one of the greatest happiness opportunities in the history of humanity, right there. If you choose to take the challenge that I'm putting in front of you right now. Learn to teach. Be a great teacher and leader. And if you can't do it for yourself, do it for your kids. If you can't do it for your kids, do it for your community. You know, one of my colleagues years ago is a fellow by the name of Po Chung. Po Chung is from Hong Kong. And he started a company we're all familiar with called DHL International. He started with a partner, I think 2 partners and 6 employees. And that's how they started. And years later, sold it to Deutsche Post with several 100,000 employees. He's retired now, but he focuses only on education in Hong Kong. And we worked at the 6 or 7 universities there. And he and I worked on a couple of projects together for a couple of years. And he said something that I'm going to share with you that I don't want you to forget about teaching. He says this: if you have any experience in life or in business, it becomes a societal responsibility for you to teach. A societal responsibility for you to teach others. Otherwise, our society stagnates, moves backwards, decays. Because if you don't teach it, who's going to? Who's going to? Some crazy YouTuber, a horrible education system that's using our using the education system as a political platform, using our kids as pawns in the middle of it? Is that where it's going to happen? No, it's going to happen with you. Rich Dad, the purpose of the Rich Dad organization is to improve the financial well-being of humanity. The cash flow game taught at home. Part of the revolution is teaching at home. It's already happening. Groups working at home. The mission of the Blair Singer Training Academy is to produce the best teachers, leaders, and facilitators in the world that change the way we learn, that change society. That's you. That's all of us. Okay? So I'm just going to say this, is that we are all on this adventure together, just like climbing Kilimanjaro. Alfredo and I have climbed it together. I've summited that mountain 10 times, 5,900 meters, 19,341 feet, 10 times up that mountain. I'm going to tell you a couple things that you need in order to do this. And this is what I'm going to kind of sign off with. Number one, you need the right gear. You need the right clothing. Have the right gear, or it's just not going to work for you. So you have to have the right gear, number one. Number two, you have to prepare. If you just show up at Kilimanjaro and expect that your strength, natural strength, is going to get you up there, you will not make it. That mountain will spank you badly. So you must prepare. I've been preparing. Rich Dad Advisors have been preparing. We've been preparing for this for years. You've been preparing. You didn't know you were preparing, but all the trial and error, the ups and downs you have, that's your preparation. That's your criteria as a teacher, not your degrees. Degrees don't mean anything these days. What can you teach me in the real world, in real life, that I can learn about myself to handle my mental health and to handle my skill health? What can you help me with? And for sure, you're doing it all day long anyway, okay? So you got to prepare. You got to prepare. Third thing, gear, preparation, mindset. Got to have the right mindset. If you go into this mountain, if you go to that mountain, you go, oh my God, I'm never going to make it. It's going to kick my butt. You're not going to make it. The anxiety will build up. Your heart rate will go up. Your immune system will go down. You'll get sick. The altitude will get to you, and you're just not going to make it. You've got to learn to train your little voice to be strong in the face of adversity, to enjoy the adversity, to enjoy, as my friend Robert says, when he used to go into battle, he said that, getting into the aircraft was exhilarating, even though you were scared to death. That's courage. Courage, from the French word le coeur, which means heart. Courage is not about strength. Courage is about your willingness to keep moving ahead, even if you're scared to death. Even if you're scared to death. And finally, the fourth piece that you need to get up Kilimanjaro is a good guide. A guide. I mean, if you go on the internet, and you got to have a guide to know the trail. So, but if you go on the internet, I'm just going to find a guide on the internet. You get a guy that's a local guy from Tanzania, and he speaks Swahili, and he seems like a good guy, but he speaks no Spanish, and he speaks very little English. You're not going to make it. I've seen the roadkill of people coming down that couldn't make it to the top. They had to carry them down. People, and these, I'm just telling you, this is life. This is an adventure. It's like climbing Kilimanjaro. It's like going to the apex of anything in your life. The rules are the same. You need the right guides. We go with great guides who've been up there many, 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 many times. And they prepare you, they give you the right gear, help you with the right gear, all the things I'm talking about. And their summit rate of all the people that climb the mountain, 95% of all the people they take up that mountain make it successfully up and down, where the average, 40% across the board in other groups. Okay, why? Because they're great guides. My final plea, interesting I say that. My final challenge to you is to be that guide. Be the guide that can take people successfully to the top and bring them back home safe. Because if you do that, and if you find those kinds of guides for yourself, the people that you know will have your back no matter what, the people you can understand, the people that understand the 3 areas of preparation, how to be a great teacher and leader. If you find that and you can do that, doesn't even matter how much skill you're teaching. You'll be teaching people the way of a leader, the way of a great teacher, and the way of somebody that is here to support them, their families, their businesses, and their communities. We do that. We all take this crazy green zone time of confusion and upset and crisis, and we turn it into one of the greatest opportunities that humanity has ever seen. In my heart of hearts, I believe that. So thank you so much for having me here, Alfredo. Thank you all for being here. Our work, your work as a teacher, leader, is more important than ever before. And it's not tomorrow. It's today. Do something today. Be amazing.
¿Cómo estás? Nos da muchísimo gusto que estés disfrutando de Divergentes 2.1. Sueben, patrocinador oficial de Divergentes 2.1 Revolución, está honrado con tu presencia. Mi nombre es Rosana Pérez.